everybody, to the Wine With Us podcast. I'm Keith Sprinkles Jr. here with Blair Coker, Kelly Flowers. No, if we get you, or you guys can go ahead.
I'm Kelly Flowers. Oh shit! I already messed up.
Blair, oh, you mean
Take number two. Take two.
We gotta try this again. Hi, I'm Keith Sprinkles Jr. Welcome back to the Wine With Us podcast. Here with
I'm Blair Coker.
and I'm Kelly Flowers.
That's great. We're gonna do great on video together. This is fun. I'm actually not drinking wine tonight, so we can start with the wine we're drinking, and start with somebody else. But yeah, let's jump in. What are you guys drinking?
I am drinking a Carignan
Ooh.
From where?
from France, the Roussillon region.
Yeah, Roussillon. Yeah. Which wine is it? Hold it up.
It's one of the
Ah, yes. From Rochemere, Calice, Carignan. Very cool. What do you think?
It's good. It's interesting. I don't know if I've had a 100% Carignan before.
Few and far between.
Nice. It's creamy. It's fresh.
Yeah, it's got some funk to it too. So good. Blair, what about you? Ah,
I'm drinking the 2014 Vigna Adrienne Reserva Tempranillo Graciano. It's showing beautifully tonight. I don't know. Maybe it's a fruit day. I don't know. Had this with my dinner and couldn't stop drinking it. It was just it's a beautiful wine from our friends, the Manzanos and Rioja.
couldn't stop drinking it, huh? This is actually a recorded intervention for Blair.
Okay. Yeah, turns out.
I'm drinking a
And
little.
for the record, Blair, it's day or flower day. So
Ooh, okay, there we go. Flower day.
I'm drinking bubbly, $3.99 for a 12-pack at Target.
I don't know if they're an official sponsor, Keith. We might
Hold on,
have to
wait.
do-
Let me try again. I'm drinking $3.99 for a 4-pack at Target or 12-pack at
There
Target.
you go.
You can't see it that time. So I'm choosing to not drink alcohol today. I probably didn't even drink that much this week at all anyway. I'm getting my second vaccine Friday. So
Nice.
I'm going to do a podcast myself Friday night from 7 o'clock until Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we're going to go through the phases of second vaccine grief. Let's see what.
Here's my question, Keith. You did the one chip challenge. Do you think it will be more painful or less painful than the one?
Less.
Okay.
Less. Would you like me to go into detail of why?
Nope.
Nope. Everybody can make that assumption themselves.
Let's just say I had some issues and it wasn't number 1 or number 3.
Nope.
I didn't say anything wrong. Read between the lines.
Oh my god. Okay.
So that's cool. Yeah, drinking some red wine. Good for you. I wish I had some. Let's jump into current events. I got a good one tonight. So I don't like talking about this because I'd like to refuse to believe that it's actually happening, but it still keeps coming up. Non-alcoholic drinks and drinking less is becoming a thing. Not just dry January, like people are like trying to be healthier by drinking less.
Sure.
And non-alcoholic wines, non-alcoholic beers, and switching to weed, an actual excuse too. So this is becoming a thing. It still comes up. It's still a hot take thing in the industry. So what do we think about that? Are we, rather than just doing a general thing, is it really bad for wine that's happening? Is it indifferent, or is it like just a hot button issue that people are just talking about to talk about?
I think it's fun to talk about. In my mind, like if you're drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels every night, like that's something where it's like, oh, I should cut back. If you are having 7 to 20 beers a night, like you should cut back. But for me, wine has always been that one thing. It's like, oh, I can have a glass of wine or two with dinner. It doesn't seem like it's in the same caliber as some of those other things that are leading to alcoholism. I'm sure there are people who have been alcoholics or need to cut back on their wine consumption, but I don't feel like wine is the main alcoholic beverage in this category where people are cutting back, where it's like, oh man, like I really drink too much wine, I really need to cut back.
So you think that the dip in sales for alcohol would be other places
That's what I
if
think.
it was going to?
I could be completely wrong, but that's my opinion, is that wine itself won't be the category that's hurt by this.
Sure. Kelly, what do you
If
think?
20 taught me anything, I drank a lot of wine, and it was my go-to. Um, but no, overall, I don't think that it's going to be an either or. I think it's an and. I think it's just one more option for the beverage industry, and I think we should be focusing on our health overall. I think the studies coming out on wines being healthy and whatnot and trying to skew it a certain way to boost sales, I think it's all ridiculous and in the grand scheme of things, like people should not focus on that, and that should not be a reason for buying a beverage. Just like these non-alcoholic beverages that are coming out, I'm sure there's a lot of sugar content, whether or not it's natural. So either way, they can promote it for being a healthier option, but the healthiest option is sticking with water. So
No, I would agree with you, Kelly, and I can't remember the exact ratio here, but there's something about if you drink a glass of red wine a night, that's the equivalent of doing like a 20-minute long workout. I'm paraphrasing.
right. So I mean, wine is the obvious choice
Right.
here.
And I usually get an 80 hour, minute workout in every night. So um, full bottle.
I will say,
Disclaimer, that's not true.
pregnant twice in my life, I do like the idea of non-alcoholic cocktails or mocktails, whatever you would want to call it. With that being an option, it's nice because, you know, you want something other than just water or sparkling water. It gets a little boring after a while.
That's true. It's a good option for those kind of drinks.
There's room for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, I tend to believe that. I mean, this non-alcoholic stuff's getting more popular, but I mean, it just feels like noise to me. People are
Mhm.
freaking out about people drinking less. Like I just they're not. I think it's just one more thing on social media that makes people think they're doing stuff that they're not. Dry January. I mean, sales are always going to be down in January, so it really doesn't matter for anybody. And I think that the people that take a week off of drinking just make up for it the next week. So I don't think sales are any different. Oh, I haven't drank for a few days. I feel great, but I had 13 glasses of wine in the last two. So I just think it's a bunch of fake. But it's everywhere. I think non-alcoholic wine's boring, but it's good. We have some coming at some point. It's an
It's
important thing to be a part of, but
like decaf coffee. What's the point?
Right.
do you really like taste of coffee? Really? The parents just sit around the dinner table after, like when they had either friends or their parents over when I was younger. And I remember them brewing decaf coffee, my grandpa drinking decaf coffee sometimes. Now that I think about it, kind of seems like a waste of time. Should drink
Right.
milk or water or nothing. I'll take a decaf. It was like decaf Folgers too, like the stuff that came in a can. Like it wasn't even like some. My grandpa wasn't like, uh, "Hey, I'll take a single origin Guatemalan decaf." He was like, "Can you fire up the decaf coffee? Whatever can you got it in." Like so, it was so it didn't even taste good. Like, oh,
Catchphrase. That was
huh?
your grandpa's catchphrase. It was
Um, okay. Well, yeah, drink more wine. I don't know how to transition into the debate, so we just do it. So it's time for the debate.
All right. And debate. So, topic for tonight, wine influencers. Do they help or hurt the wine industry? All right, who's up first? What side are you taking and why?
yeah, great question. Thank you
Go
for
for
asking. Kelly. So I am pro
Great
wine.
question. I'll go first. So I am.
In case anybody is curious, this is how our business meetings go all the time. Um,
I'd
no,
like to tell you that this is how our business meetings usually go.
I, I am pro wine influencers, and that's the stance I'm going to be taking. But I will let Keith go first.
Oh, really? You're
Yeah.
gonna let me go first? I kind of wanted to hear what you had to say, but this will just make me interrupt more. Um, no, I guess I can argue against that. So wine influencers as a whole, as most influencers are on social media, are a big waste of time and money for everybody involved. Um, Most of them don't have, for those that are actually doing it correctly, I wouldn't even want to call them influencers because when I hear that term, it seems so negative. So they don't even have like, what do you call them, like marketing packages? Like they have no, they're not real. They're just people that have fake followers that post stuff with like grapes covering their naked bodies and like, come eat grapes in this vineyard. Oh, by the way, I was drinking this wine with it, and they hold it up. How many ads have you seen for a winery that you were like, oh, now I'm gonna go buy that bottle from them? Like zero times has it ever worked. Um, and then on like Instagram stories or Facebook or other places, these people are putting videos up talking about wines, and most of the time they don't even say anything correct about the wine that they're talking about. It's wineries wasting money and businesses wasting money, giving people free samples essentially to then go online and talk about stuff without tracking who sees it or doing anything for the business at all. It's a big, huge waste of time, and it sucks.
All right, and Blair.
Okay. I've been thinking about this a lot. And I really, really appreciate, Kelly, that you brought this topic up to the table because wine influence has not just started within the past couple of years. This isn't something brand new. Okay, Keith, I'm going to say two names to you, and you tell me if they've influenced the wine world. Have you heard of a guy named Robert Parker? Oh, the original wine influencer? Yeah, I think you have. Oh, here's another one. Hey, Keith, have you heard
You
of?
heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? Yeah, I got you. I'm a step ahead of you.
No, I'll skip over him. He's fine. Have you heard of a guy named James Suckling? Whether you agree with him or not, he has influenced the wine industry. There have been wine influencers in the wine industry long before influencers on Instagram were a thing. The fact that people are bringing wine into the Instagram social media world is fantastic. All this is doing is giving people an opportunity to try new wines that they would have never tried before. Hey, if you want to try something new, here's my MLM. Try this wine. Great, that wine sucked. Now I know I don't like that wine. Let me try something else. Okay, so all it's doing is bringing more awareness to
Nobody
the wine.
buys like that.
You shut your mouth. All it's doing is bringing more wine awareness to people who are like, hey, I want to jump into wine, but I don't know where to start. They might hear some wrong facts here and there, but the fact that it's being talked about overall is fantastic for the wine industry. People are getting out there, people are trying new wines. Everyone's looking for that craft brewery type of wine that like, hey, I found this one wine. You've never heard of it before, but it's really good. You should try this wine. It's making wine more approachable, which is what we've talked about from the beginning is making wine more approachable. It's very, very hard to do, but these wine influencers are actually giving people an opportunity to try new wines and step out into a different region, a different part of the world that they've never been into before. There are people who are absolutely set on Napa Cab. Napa Cab is fantastic. I love it. I'm not trying to say anything negative about them. That being said, people are starting to venture out and try new wines that they would have never tried before because they're seeing stuff on social media. They're like, oh, this drink's like a Napa Cab, but it's different because of this, and this. Oh, fantastic. Maybe I'll try one of those wines someday. It has done nothing but help the wine industry and help people expand their palates and try something different that they've never wanted to try before.
Are you finished?
So, no, I would need to interject here for a second. So, Blair, I really like your point. What about the influencers that are, because that's taking the approach that these influencers are going out and finding the wine themselves and promoting these wines because they truly enjoy it.
Which they're not.
So let's talk about the modern day influencer that is being paid by some winery or wine company
Yeah.
that's
Well,
their
and Blair, before you answer her question, I'd like to say, if you take the term influencer and skew it to your argument instead of answering the question that was actually put forward. So you should answer
well,
Kelly's
I
question
do
too.
agree with Blair in that aspect, the
But that's not the
original
question.
wine influencer, but they went out and found these wines themselves to introduce to the wine world or the wine consumer pre-social media. So I don't know the history of it. They might have been approached. They probably were approached, and maybe not in the beginning, but by wineries and whatnot to taste their wines. And obviously later
often,
on, that's what it turned into. But were they paid to do it? And
yeah,
that's the argument today with these social media influencers, specifically on Instagram. They are being paid. They have media kits. They approach different brands saying like, hey, I will post one image on my feed representing your wine and say something nice about it for $5,000. And
great.
brands will do it.
Could not be more appreciative of that. If, as a small business, the three of us are in a small business, if there was someone who said, hey, I would love to talk about your wines, I would love to showcase them, I've got this many followers, this is going to raise your brand awareness,
We've already been
absolutely
having that happening, and we have already turned them down multiple times. I think it's ridiculous.
fantastic. Hey, this is a brand where you guys, if it's somebody local to our market and someone says, hey, we'd love to represent your brand, we would love to showcase this on our page. We've had that happen a couple times. People have volunteered that. I think anytime we get exposure for whatever reason, whether that's paid or free or someone just posted something literally earlier today about Casey Mack wines, our canned wine, and I don't I don't know the story behind it. I don't think we paid them to do it, but it was a fantastic video, and I was like, oh great, free advertising, or even if we paid for the advertising, I don't care. That's brand awareness. If
So what's
people
your definition of influencer then? Like,
if,
what's an influencer?
if people see your brand over and over, they're more likely to try it.
I didn't
Hey,
ask you that. I asked you what's an influencer.
an influencer is someone that you have to pay because they have a certain number of followers.
That was the question. Are influencers good or not? That's not, you didn't like,
Absolutely, they're good.
so then, so, but
I
you,
would pay Joe Schmo off the
the
street to
people that
taste.
you argued originally though don't fall into that
It doesn't.
term.
No, people paid.
Not
People paid.
originally, they didn't. And even if they did, they're actually credible. So it really doesn't matter. Like, influencer is a not credible person most of the time.
That's skewing. That's your opinion. I think that influencers are people who have a following. Anybody who has a following is an influencer.
What if they're influencing fake followers?
I don't care.
Do you? Because if it's followers that are all in Romania and we sell wine here, why does it matter?
I disagree. So we
Maybe
would.
they'll get on a plane and fly to Napa to taste the wine that the influencer is promoting.
So people taking advantage of people and acting like they're doing a service to them is a good thing. I'm
So
gonna
people,
pay. You're gonna pay me $1 per follower. I have 10,000 followers. The trick is 9,700 of them are people that don't matter and aren't real, but 300 of them might see your thing. And of those 300 people, most of them live 1,000 miles away. It's a big game. It's a big scam.
it is, but if we have someone who has followers within the United States and we have an online wine shop and they say, "Hey, I've got this many followers in the United States. I want to represent your wine brand and talk about it on my channel." Great. Done. Easy. Why not?
Why not?
So, here's my thing. The amount of money you would have to pay an influencer to represent your brand on social media versus the amount of money you would have to pay for a 30-second ad that you hope someone watches on national TV is not worth it to me. The
What if
people that
what if you had to pay an influencer $500 to post, or you could spend $500 to actually advertise with your own advertisement with people that you trust in an actual campaign, not an influencer to go, hold on, let me coat here like this. I'm naked and I'm on the beach, but check out Casey Mack. Like, is that worth $500?
which is getting more views? Are people actually watching ads on TV? Every time an ad pops up,
Why would we do a TV ad? Why wouldn't a small company do a social media ad where you actually have people watch it? Your return on paying an influencer versus paying and creating your own content is way worse. and you actually get to control what they say and what you say, and you can project your own message instead of hoping whatever that person does. Check it out, I've got Casey Mack ears.
I don't care.
That's essentially what happens.
If I follow #wine and something pops up, I look at it every time. 90% of the time, it's not about wine. But the few times it is, I actually pay attention to the post.
You ever bought anything from an ad before? From an influencer?
Absolutely.
From an influencer?
Yes.
From an influencer. You actually have. You've bought a bottle of wine from an influencer holding up grapes over their body.
I didn't say wine. I have bought stuff from an influencer.
We're talking about wine influencers, some other things. Have you bought wine from an influencer?
One wine influencer. I follow influencers. I don't follow wine influencers.
So your whole argument in this debate was how, and you drink a lot. How much wine do you drink, Blair? On a weekly basis, probably like 3 or 4 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
What do you say you buy a month? About a case of wine a month, probably you purchase yourself.
Okay.
So influencers are so good at their job. You've never bought one bottle that you saw an influencer do online.
Don't do that.
Don't lie.
Don't do that.
Because that would kind of kill your whole argument. If you think they're so great, but and you see them, but you haven't bought one bottle from an influencer online. I mean, they must not be influencing you too much, but I'm sure they got paid from the winery.
Okay, to your point, Keith, I feel like I know enough about wine that I don't need an influencer to tell me what to buy.
Ooh.
There are other categories.
How much of the wine community feels that way?
There are other.
Either they know enough or they don't care what the influencer says.
There are other areas that I don't know as much about where I'm like, oh, if they say that, I literally bought.
Okay. No, this is good. This is good. So are influencers good or bad for the industry? So what you just said, do influencers cause a problem with fake marketing and then making people believe that wine can be clean when that's a lie? So influencers, aren't they the ones that cause that issue? Because you don't know enough about wine, so you're going to believe what an influencer says, and then you're going to go tell all your friends that, hey, I'm drinking this wine that doesn't give me a hangover because an influencer said it. So is that good or bad for the industry?
It's a great question, Keith. I'm glad.
That exact question. Answer that question, not anything else. Is that good or bad for the industry?
I think what you just said.
Oh, I see what you're doing here. This sounds like, do we need hey, moderators, I'm speaking.
I want to see where this is going.
You just put it up, man. I think what you just said is bad for the industry.
Oh, okay.
But I think having people feel like they understand or hear more about wine is good overall for the industry.
That's great. So do wine companies who actually know what they're doing post online? Can they influence for themselves?
How about this? I have seen more posts for wine from influencers than I have from actual wine companies.
Sure, I don't disagree with that. So wine being posted online and being seen more is a good thing. I do agree. You're more of a all news is good news kind of thing. Like no news is bad news.
Right.
So I don't agree with that, but because we're in a headline first society, influencers are dangerous. And in this aspect of what we're talking about, but I think influencers as a whole, as a group of people, are a waste of time and money, and people should put more money into their own version of that than continue to let people spew lies and do whatever they do.
Keith, have you personally ever benefited from an influencer talking about our wines? Yes or no?
At this current time,
yes.
In this exact state,
yes.
No.
Never.
We have an influencer who's talked about our wines before? An actual influencer we paid to talk about our wines?
Yeah. Not paid, no, but someone who volunteered because they said, hey, we want to promote your event.
Who's the influencer?
It happened once for the Folds of Honor event, and it happened once with, Adam. We pay him in wine.
He's not an influencer.
Okay.
By this exact definition.
Okay.
So what's considered an influencer? The amount of followers?
No. No, I don't think so.
Or if it's truly their livelihood?
That.
Hey, link in my bio, purchase wine at this. Okay.
That's what an influencer does.
Okay.
So we haven't had any benefit because we haven't paid people to do it.
I concede to that. That's fair.
That's why I asked what the definition was early on in the argument, because the definition of what you're saying and what we're saying an influencer is not the same thing. Using a person to influence a group of people is not what an influencer does. You savvy?
Interesting. Well, I feel like you guys did a great job debating the topic. Before I announce a winner,
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
I
back.
would
On record saying I hated this. This is good. This was fun. I
If
love
you
it.
didn't like it,
my 2 cents here.
Yes, Kelly.
I personally don't think wine influencers hinder the industry, but they're doing it wrong. They're 100% absolutely doing it wrong because they're not educating the consumer. They're not making wine interesting. It's just like us talking about the wines that we're drinking tonight. Nobody is going to go out and buy these wines specifically.
No one's gonna buy the 2014 Vineyard Drain Reserva.
But I just look at influencers in general as a new way of advertising.
Okay.
So many of them, they have media kits just like magazines do. And it's a really fascinating industry. And the majority of them do hustle. It is their career. So the wine industry itself, I think it's lacking in influencers and how they're approaching it because it is such an antiquated industry. Nobody knows how to market it anymore, or at all, not anymore, just at all. So people are the wineries, the boutique wineries, the wine brands, the wine companies, the distributor, like everybody's trying to navigate this new wave of marketing and advertising, and they're leaning on these amateurs really to do it for them. And I personally think that they are just doing it wrong. So as for the winner, Blair, I'm sorry, but I feel like Keith made a very valid argument and ultimately really stuck to the origin of the argument as well. So Blair, I 100% agree with all of your points, but
but I played the game better.
I get it. No, that's fair, Kelly. That's a fair assessment.
I agree with a lot of things you said, but I mean,
The only thing I've learned through our 2 weeks of debating is that Keith goes for the jugular in a debate.
Oh, 100%.
What does that even? Isn't that the point? What did I say something wrong?
No, I got in trouble for this. This is off the record. Don't put this on the podcast. This is on the podcast. I used to get in arguments with girlfriends when I was early on in my dating career, and I would argue to win the argument rather than argue the points of like the argument.
Yeah.
Like you mean like what you just did?
No, not at all like that, Keith. It's completely different. I've grown a lot and matured since then.
What do you mean goes for the jugular? Like what does that mean? What did I do? What did I do wrong?
Tear apart my argument rather than like justify your points.
That's called debating.
Okay.
It's hard because I agree with a lot of what you said. Not the angle that you took, but a lot of what you said. I mean, if influencers in the exact term of what they are would do their jobs correctly, it would be really good. Having eyes on wine is a really good thing. But having eyes on wine in a light that confuses people is a bad thing.
I don't think these wine brands are really taking that into consideration. So ultimately, it's on the brands themselves versus the influencers. Because if you think of it as like a billboard, you're not going to pay $5,000 to put a billboard out in the middle of Kansas when you can put one in downtown Kansas City.
Right.
When you know that you're
right. It's on the brand, because if the brands would tell insert douchey influencer here, if they would tell them what they wanted, then the person that they paid would probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they would say, hey, we like what you did here. We like your following and where your followers are from. And you look like you're part of the brand, whatever that means. But can you do your ad like this? And the person would go, yeah, $5,000. and they would just do it. Like I don't understand the problem. Like these people are just going, hey, here's our wine, talk about it, and they're not even like watching them.
Right.
It's like if you're paying these people to do it, unless you pick somebody that's terrible at what they do, and for the most part, the one thing I will give these people credit for is that they know how to do what they're doing, the act of doing it. I get on, I post, I do this, I do that. Like for the most part, if you find the right people, they know, they have a clue. I don't even think they're dumb enough to say, nope, you paid me, I'm going to do it the opposite of what you said. I think it's
Right.
on the wineries themselves and all the different brands for not giving them more direction.
And a lot of them pick lifestyle influencers, which is not going to get your message out there.
It's not what wine is. That was a good debate. That was a fun debate. Shut your mouth. I'm talking. I've got it. So anyway, hopefully you had fun listening to me and DeBlair debate. Kelly, thank you for moderating.
Up in the Blair.
Me and DeBlair debate. So appreciate your time as always. The last few weeks. Let's keep this rolling. Until next time, I'll do a fake cheers.